Welcome back to Cruising Calypso. This week we're going to do our shakedown cruise on board Calypso. As you saw, the boat was put in the water last week, and so we're ready to try her out. I mentioned that we have an upcoming trip this week heading to Maine, so we want to make sure everything works. So it's always a good idea when you first get back in the water for the beginning of the season to check out all your systems. Come on with me and we'll check out our electrical systems first. We already started the generator, and what I did was I powered up everything here. As you can see, I'm showing my battery voltage is showing 12 volts here. That's a little low. Hopefully the generator will bring that up to 13 and a half. But I've got all my systems turned on here, and we're going to check them all. Starting with the air conditioning, we have the salon air conditioning on, and let's go over and see if we're getting some cool air here. Feels pretty cool to me. And if you come with me, we're going to take a look at the air conditioning up in the forward stateroom. And we have cold air. So the AC is running on both the salon and the stateroom air conditionings. Now let's check the heads. Make sure we have our water pump is working. It is. Check out our heads. The vacuum pressure is there, so that's good. Alrighty, let's keep going. Let's just check the water here. Alrighty. There's still a touch of pink antifreeze in the water. We drained most of that out, but we'll get the rest of that out before we head on our trip. So let's take a look at the microwave. That is working. So far all the systems seem to be running. Now let's go up on the bridge and we'll fire up the engines and we'll fire up the electronics. So come on with me. Certainly warm up here on the bridge of Calypso with all the isinglass. In fact, we're just going to open it up a little bit and then we will fire everything up. Much better. We had the boat launched, we have the boatyard commission the engines and the generator, but we do everything else. Just easier that way. It's things we can do. So let's just turn on our blowers. Even though this boat being diesel does not need that. Turn on the electronics. Don't want to forget our VHF radio. Our autopilot. And you can see, so far everything seems to be coming on. And while we're doing that, we'll just unzip this side isinglass. If you recall last week, we were successful putting on the backup camera, which is going to be a big help this season, especially when we come into docks where we have to back in against the key. We'll have much better visibility. Alrighty, so let's fire up the engines. The other thing you want to do when you check everything out, you want to check all your emergency gear. One of the things that, as you know, you're required to have, per the Coast Guard, you have to have certain things on board. So you want to make sure you have your documentation on board, copy of your insurance policy. If your boat is registered, you need the state registration. This boat is documented, so we have the documentation certificate. You want to make sure you have your emergency equipment, which for a boat this size requires a couple of fire extinguishers. You want to check the gauges to make sure they are in the green. You want to check to make sure that you have your, it's noon here in Marion. You want to make sure you have your flares. Flares expire, I think, about every 3 years. We've replaced our flares with an electric battery operated flare, so we use that. But you also need a daytime alert signal, which can be an orange flag. A sound maker, which can be a whistle or your horn, and of course you need all your PFDs on board. In the case of Calypso, we keep all of our PFDs right here, down below. So you have to make sure you have all of that on board. So let's go ahead and fire up the mains and let's see what happens. So as you saw in the end of that last clip, I was having trouble starting the engines. It turns out that low voltage that we discovered when we were looking at the electrical panel was not enough power to start the starboard engine. Now, let me explain what we discovered. The boatyard had been on board earlier in the week to do a little commissioning work, and it turns out they left both battery banks on and several systems. So that managed to run down the battery banks. If you recall, we put brand new batteries on, so I wasn't particularly happy about that. And so we did not have enough power to turn over the starboard engine. So what I did was I ran the generator for about an hour and was able to get enough juice in the battery bank to start both engines. We did end up going out on our shakedown cruise. It was great. The engines performed excellently, but I was a little bit concerned about the status of the batteries, given that we have this upcoming trip to Maine. So I notified the boatyard, and they took Calypso into their docks and they put it on the charger and they load tested the batteries to make sure that they were in fact still healthy and back up to what is a normal 13.5 volts. So that's why it's a good idea to do these shakedown cruises, to make sure everything is the way it should be, whether it's something with the boat, something someone else does. So it was a good idea. We are getting ready to head out on our trip to Maine shortly, so we will be taking videos from there. See you next time.